Last time I finished with 324,000 gold. This week we're going to shoot up to 1.2 million gold, but the gold total is a small part of what I have been up to recently. So this is part 4 in a series trying to get to gold cap from absolute zero. And if you haven't watched the previous episodes, the whole playlist is going to be linked in the description below. Firstly, since last time, I have been quite lazy as far as this challenge is concerned, not put in probably as much effort as I have done in the previous weeks leading up to this episode. This is particularly true with the mining and herbalism. I don't think I've done absolutely any of it since the last video was released. If you remember last time, I decided to put all my arts acuity into sort of getting more knowledge for my mining and herbalism. So I spent all that to upgrade it as much as possible, and I have not used it at all since. Therefore, at the moment, I'm sort of regretting spending that arts acuity because it could have been spent on something else, on another profession that I could have been using to make gold, because obviously I've not been doing this mining and herbalism, so I've actually had no benefit from spending that whatsoever. Now at the time, I thought I was going to be doing a lot of mining and herbalism. I thought I'd be able to, just do a few hours a week and chip away at it, and so that extra knowledge would have been worth the investment, but obviously it's not come to that. And so that was mistake number 1 this week. Now I could potentially use this character still, because even though I've burnt all the arts and acuity I earned from mining and herbalism, I still have not done any enchanting shuffle on it. So there is a lot of arts and acuity there if I do want it. So this character could still potentially be a war within profession crafter, but we'll have to see what happens in the future. So since last episode, this character has actually done nothing besides sit at the AFK big red ray gun toy and just sat there and just killed that whenever I've been sat farming that, basically. So that is literally all that my level 80 character has done since the last time you saw one of these episodes. Last time I talked about not being able to do what I wanted to do with my second character, because basically it needed to do some stuff in Shadowlands to be able to unlock the campaign, because it wanted to do some legendary crafting with blacksmithing, but because there was a bug with all these quest lines at the moment in Shadowlands that I wasn't able to do that. So I did talk a bit about that in another video about sort of legendary crafting, targeting markets that other people aren't in. Now, basically what I'd noticed was that with the Shadow Ghasts, so that's the blacksmithing legendary crafted gear, the profit margins were really quite nice. So basically you were at least doubling your gold for a lot of these crafts. And the sales rates were fairly decent as far as transmog is concerned anyway. So basically the plan was to sort of mass craft this stuff, sell it 20, 25, 30 different servers, sort of get a decent income from doing this. And doing that on that sort of scale would probably have worked reasonably well. But the questline's bugged, wasn't able to do it. So we have to move on and decide to do something different with this level 70 character instead. So talking about transmog and crap sales rates, last time I had leveled up some characters to level 15 to be able to do the Darkmoon Fair quest, to do the Faded Treasure Map quest, to get the 100 Darkmoon Fair tickets and use that to buy some transmog. Now luckily I sold one of those bits of transmog quite quickly, and it sort of paid all the expenses from doing that. And since then, not a single bit has sold basically. So I've been listing these across several servers, not a single bit has sold. So as the guys in the comments say, transmog never sells. But we'll keep at it, see what sells. If anything, it was an idea, but like a lot of ideas, some work out, some don't. You try it and you see how it goes. But at the moment, that one's not particularly working out either. So that's basically 3 fails we've had in this episode. We've had the choice to use the arts and security on the mining and herbalism, which turned out to be bad. The Shadowlands legendary crafting, that was a bug. That was unlucky, but fail number 2. Fail number 3, the Darkmoon Fair stuff is just not selling. So let's get on to what actually is working in the challenge, because obviously we know we've earned some gold this week. So seeing as I've not really done anything with War Within Professions, thought I would give it a go with the level 70 character, and I wanted to do something where I could catch up fairly quickly. So I thought Enchanting was a good choice, because you know that you can very quickly get sort of 200 knowledge with the catch up. You can get like 200 knowledge in like 15 minutes. And then you get enough art and security to buy all the tools. So it's a really, really fast, simple way to get a Bisque crafter in absolutely no time whatsoever. Now, when I created this character, I intentionally created it as a blood elf for the +5 enchanting skill, knowing that even if I did the Shadowlands blacksmithing crafting, that I could potentially be doing an enchanting character as well for the War Within as well, and doing both professions at once on this. So this was intentional, this guy to be a blood elf and have that +5 enchanting skill, which turned out to be really useful. Now, I didn't have a huge amount of gold saved up from last time, and I spent quite a lot leveling up the profession, getting this profession gear, doing the enchanting shuffle to get the knowledge and the art and security, and getting all the enchants on the profession gear and all that sort of stuff. Spent a good chunk of the gold that I had already built up. But what I did have, I had an enchanter with 145 enchanting skill. Now, I did try to do some shattering, but the profit margins on it were fairly thin. I did make some gold off it, but it wasn't fantastic. But it was, it was fine. The issue I did have is I didn't have a decent enough tailor. So you need someone with really good resourcefulness for crafting the braces and the hats. Otherwise, the crafting costs on those are just going to be too high. That's basically what I found. I found that I could make some decent profit because the disenchanter was so good, but it wasn't fantastic. And so it wasn't really worth the amount of effort for doing the shuffle with the hats and with the braces. But with the Dark Moon decks, I found it was much more successful. So the Dark Moon decks basically had two advantages for me in particular. Firstly, they obviously didn't need that tailor to craft them, so I didn't need another sort of Bisque or really good crafter, which was something I was really lacking at the moment. Secondly, because you can buy all the cards separately, put them together yourself, you can actually have a lot more control over how much you're paying for your decks, which is a massive factor in how profitable the shuffle is going to be. So I was frequently buying the decks at sort of 80 to 100 gold each. That was sort of the margins on where I was buying them most of the time. And I was basically making between 50 and 70,000 gold profit for every 1,000 decks that I disenchanted. And this took me about 80 to 90 minutes. I'm just basically just spamming one button like you do when you're putting decks together, disenchanting decks, putting decks together, disenchant decks. Just basically two separate buttons, one to put them together, one to disenchant. And that's literally all you do for 80 to 90 minutes. Now, I think this is half the reason that I stopped doing the mining and the herbalism, because I was getting similar, if not even slightly better gold per hour doing the epic disenchanting shuffle than I was mining and herbing. And basically, it's taking much less effort. So I would do this while I was watching Twitch, while I'm watching YouTube, or whatever in the background, because it takes basically 10% of your effort to be able to do it. Whereas obviously mining and herbalism takes, you need a lot more of your concentration and much more attention to be able to do that. So yeah, so that is basically, I think, probably why I stopped mining and herbing, because I had this that was, earning the gold without having to put all that effort in. Now, of course, there were times when the prices of the decks got too high or the prices of the crystals got too low and it didn't work out. So I just didn't do it at those points. But a lot of the time, it's finding it was working. It was happening frequently enough that it was making me a decent amount of gold and more than paid itself back. That all that money I'd put into learning all the enchanting and disenchanting and all that. I got that back several times over, and it really sort of started pushing me on a lot. Now, obviously, things aren't quite as good at the moment because I've just released a video talking about disenchanting, basically what I had found sort of in the process of doing this and what I'd previously learned from disenchanting. But like all things, these come around and it will get bad for a while and then it'll get better again when people forget about it. So there's perhaps a lesson here that a lot of people need to learn, and it's basically push to get Bisque crafter. Some people, I think, spread themselves out too thinly. So if people come to me, sometimes they're doing multiple professions on one character, sometimes they're trying to do too much at once. Just get one thing, making gold, move on to the next thing, get that thing, making gold or potentially making gold in a situation where it can make gold, even if it can't make gold all the time. If the market conditions are right, it can make gold. But having lots of things that are draining gold from you, you're only losing gold to get that. So get things in that situation where you can make gold. Like I said, because I think people just get distracted trying to do too many different things at once sometimes. Now, like I said at the start of this video, did manage to push my way all the way to 1.2 million gold this episode. A lot of this came from the disenchanting, but a lot of it also came from what I've been doing cross-realm as well. I've now spread out to 44 different servers across the US region. I'm not selling on every single server, but I'm selling on a lot of them. And so you can see how I'm slowly spreading out. And as you sell things across more and more servers, it just sort of, the amount of people you can sell to goes up and up, and your selling potential just sort of goes up and up as well. So that's basically what you can see every episode. You'll probably see that number of servers just slowly ticking up a little bit more. Now, you guys know I'm flipping stuff. I talked a little bit about it that last episode, but I'm not going to go into it too much this episode. I think I'll mostly talk about it a bit more either next episode, or we'll talk about sort of the professions that other professions that I've decided to do, because I've got a couple of ideas what I might do there as well. So quite happy where we are at the moment in the challenge, considering sort of the amount of time and effort that I have actually put into it. I think the return's quite good. I don't actually know how much stock we're holding, but I imagine if we sold everything, we'd be quite on a good path to getting where we need to go. But we'll just have to see how things go. Keep slowly pushing forward, chipping away at it, and like I said, doing this fairly casually. So let's see how it all turns out, see how long it takes to get to that 10 million gold. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.